Okay, and here we are with the most underrated jungler in the whole entire game. I'm not going to hold it from you. I'm going to tell you right here, right now, and that is Mulan. But the real reason is you need to know why she's the most broken, because right now, I don't think anybody knows that she's actually one of the best junglers in the game. And it's from a pure number perspective that she's just outnumbering even the best gods with numbers, the highest scaling gods. She I'll give you a sneak peek. She has 400% scaling. That's more than Thor's scaling. And Thor, I would say, is probably, if not the best jungler right now, top three for sure. So she's outscaling Thor and she's out base damaging Thor while being a, not jungler, but a warrior and being tankier. So overall, in the pure stat department, she is beating a lot of junglers that are seeing play right now, which probably shouldn't compare it to someone like Mulan. But let's get into it and why I think she's one of the most underrated junglers. Okay, so as you can see here, there are two graphs, not graphs, I would say, but two tables I made, one for Thor, one for Mulan, just showing off their kits and like their base damage numbers and what their kit does. Like what are the bonus effects that their kit has? Does it have a stun? Is it movement? Is it all this blah 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 blah? What's the cooldown too? So pretty much, I think Thor is the best jungler right now, hands down. Ever since his ult changed to where you have less time to just react to it, I think it's just a lot better now and more parity with Smite 1. So that's why Thor is the one I'm comparing, and I didn't feel like doing every single jungler that's meta right now. So I thought this was a fair way to do it. So here we are with Mulan's number and Thor's number compared to each other. And one thing you see starting off is she has a lot higher of a base damage, which I was expecting her to have higher base damage just because she's a warrior first class. First base damage, their scaling, and the pros and cons that they are, and also just the extra add-ons of their kits, whether it's a stun, pull, movement, and the cooldown of it. So pretty much everything you really need to know for someone to be an effective jungler. Obviously, they can clear because you can see the damage numbers, right? Those are the two most important things. What is your damage to gods and what is your clear like? So here we are. Pretty much the things that first stood out to me when I was like, oh wow, Mulan is actually a really underrated jungler, because I was going against a Mulan player and they beat me in the jungle and I was like, hold on, Mulan was actually busting damage out. Let me try her. Let me play. I played her for like 10 games straight to like really see if she was actually good. And from those 10 games, I decided that she is absolutely busted. Her early game is insane because just look at how much base damage she has as a warrior. Her level 5 spike, or her minute 5 level 5 spike, once she gets her spear thrust upgraded and her cross strike upgraded, is unparalleled. No one can fight her during that time. Maybe Hercules is the only one that can fight her. But even then, I doubt it, just because you will do so much more damage than him. Now, to reel it back to the chart real quick. Yeah, the thing I wasn't expecting is just how much more damage she has. I was kind of expecting the base damage, not really by this wide of a margin, by like 700. She has more than Thor. But now for her scaling it's also higher than Thor's at of having 50 more scaling in her kit total, right? Than scores the Thor. Someone that has to hit a double tap to get his stuff off. Someone that is very reliant on his 1-2 combo and being in your face after that. So for her to have more scaling than him, I was definitely not expecting, just because she's a warrior. Most warriors don't have higher scalings than, right? They have higher base damages, but not higher scaling. But she does in this case. So once again, so she's beating Thor in all forms of damage. Obviously, she's a more close ranged fighter, but her grapple does allow her to have that extra extension of herself and presence that she can give, just kind of like how Thor's 2-1 combo allows them to have that extension of self. So when we really break it down, Mulan overall is just a high damage jungler, high scaling jungler. You don't have to build her defense like a lot of people probably would, but just look at the stats that she's getting from her kit. She's getting 25% attack speed. And I'm not saying that that's not anything crazy. Well, really 35, because once you get the perma buff, it's going to be 35 whenever you use the ability, and then just 10% all the time. That's nothing to scoff at. That could easily make the difference between when you're auto attack training with someone and it's whoever hits that last auto is going to die or going to kill the other person. And then she has a nice hill, which can let her sustain up through the jungle and just within team fights too. And also has CC on it, which is very key to being a jungler. You need some form of CC, which she has 3 abilities that have CC on them, which Thor only has 2, I believe, unless you go Aspect, then his passive, the Thunderstruck, will apply a Tremble. But in general, she just is getting so many stats. Also a 5% strength increase. Really not crazy. Probably works out to about 40 extra damage, 20 extra damage, 40 extra damage, somewhere around there in that like small range somewhere, depending on how much strength you're going. If you're going like the typical build of high strength, you'll definitely be hitting like around 400, and then pots will just keep building you up from there. Fire Giant plus, you know, everything. But another thing I did not realize, she gains 40 procs just from pulling someone in for 6 seconds. I believe it is. It's either 6 or 3 seconds, but still that's an insane amount of procs because you're not winning. You can't trade into Mulan if she grapples you. She's going to outtrade you every single time. And then finally, even if you don't die from just her pure base kit, she has a ult that scales 915 damage. 915 damage. That might be one of the hardest hitting ults. Now, granted, it is an overtime ability, right? Just like all her abilities. And I think that's one thing to really understand about Mulan when I get into her cons and maybe why people don't see her as valuable as I believe she really is mainly just because a lot of her kit just takes time to do, right? And that time can be spent auto attack canceling for Thor, auto attack canceling for Susanoo, right? Loki, same thing. But she is trading that auto attack cancel just for more higher base damage, more scaling, right? It's not like she can't auto attack cancel, but it's just not as strong as those characters. But in general, Divine Mastery doing insane amount of damage in a big AoE too. Very good team fight ultimate. I've done 4,000 damage with this one ability in one team fight. Late game, it's really ridiculous. If you land this on the back 2 carries and you have your soul laner, you win. It's like a Susanoo. You just win the team fight. Literally, you just win the team fight. They can't fight back against this. It's actually insane. And then you get also 30% procs. And in general, I just think after going over her whole kit compared to Thor's, it's just very, and I mean very good for what a jungler is supposed to do. High CC. Not as high mobility, but she still does have mobility with the grapple and her ultimate if she needs to close the distance even more than that. With also a knock up on the ultimate. So her presence down lane is a lot bigger than one would think. Now you might not catch up to the person if you're hitting them with the knock up, but what you can do is you can be supporting your allies to get in closer to maybe get a knock up or get a stun or just get damage off to lead to the kill. And when we compare that to Thor has Mjolnir, right? Mjolnir's attunement, which is the hammer throw, and it's also his form of safety. So if he decides to hammer throw you, you know he doesn't have another big burst of damage besides Berserker Barrage. He has nothing else for another 14 seconds. So you can just go in on the Thor after that. And it's very easy to cancel out Thor's TP. If you have a silence, Hades can do it very easily. Pele can do it easily with a knockup. Just anyone with quick access to CC that's not a charge can destroy Thor. And also, it's a predictable path. Once you see him throw it there, it's not like it can curve or swerve. You know where he is going to teleport at the max range. So it's a lot easier to also hit your abilities when it's coming to that. The Tectonic Rift is a really good ability. I do agree. Really good for cutoff. You don't see a lot of people using it exclusively like that. Not exclusively, obviously, but more like that and emphasizing that part of it. But if you can, it is actually really good. Now, I didn't know this thing had 20% scaling. That's actually that's not nothing. That's not nothing compared to, I think it used to do no damage. I believe in Smite 1 for a good bit, for a pretty good bit. And then they gave it damage. Like they do with a lot of things. They also did the same thing with Athena Taunt. And it feels weird that Athena Taunt actually does not do damage. That'll be weird if it didn't. But anyways, Berserker Barrage is his 3. That's his other main source of damage. This actually has a lot of, this is a very high scaling ability. I didn't realize that it was this high scaling, but it makes sense given that he needs to find it somewhere in his kit. And it's kind of hard to find it with, you know, having one ability that doesn't do much damage and your one which is very reliant on your 2 or some kind of setup. 98, 80, 90% of the time, honestly, for most people. Now, maybe if you like play Thor a lot and you're a really good Thor player, you can hit more raw double taps, but most people are hitting their double taps off walls or at least predictable movement, not just raw double tap in the field. Or maybe if you're up close and something, and it's a lot easier to guide the hammer back to the person. But far range double taps, you're just rarely getting that. But the most key part of his ultimate, yeah, the most key part of his ultimate is his ultimate. The best part about his kit is just the ultimate and the fact that he can rain down, you know, a true combo if you don't have beads and you're dead. If you're a squishy, you're dead if he hits you with this. He could be full tank, you're still dead somehow. I don't know how. It's a true combo. If you get hit with the full combo, you just die. And that's probably one of Thor's greatest assets. But if we're comparing the kits side by side, I do believe Thor does still rank higher than her. I do agree, just because he has a lot more. He has that more global pressure. And I think in Smite is a game all about pressure. How does your character generate pressure? A lot of characters generate pressure by kills, but there's also kill denier pressure. There's CC pressure. There's split pushing pressure. There's healing pressure. Pressure to, you know, like, so in general, it's just who's generating more pressure especially in the jungle. The jungle is all about how much pressure can you put on lanes. And I think Thor just does that better because you're always scared of a Thor ult. Because if a Thor ults on you and you don't have beads, you're done. If a Thor ults on you, you don't have Aegis to immune some of the damage, you're done. If a Thor double taps you and is now on top of you, you don't have a dash, you're done. Where Mulan is really that warrior playstyle where you're going to see her come up to you and it's up to you. What do you do? How do you fight? So they're going to be able to take a lot more fights on their terms, and on their terms, they're not going to fight with you. But that's any gank in general. But for Gold Fury fights, you're really good. For if you can get behind them without them knowing, you're really good. But you're not going to be zipping across the map like a typical assassin would. You have to understand how to just walk up to people, which a lot of newer players don't understand how to do that. Like, you'll see a lot of people like invis as Loki when they really don't have to invis. They can really just walk up to the person and then invis just for the damage, right? Because that's the main part that you want for the invis, the damage. And you know, obviously the stealth part is important, but a lot of the time, especially in Smite 2, I feel like it's a lot easier to hear a Loki coming than in Smite 1. In Smite 1, you could be on that perfect spot where they wouldn't hear you and you're just close enough to hit them with auto attack from where they are. But in general, it's got a little ranty. TLDR. Try Mulan in the jungle. She is really good. Look at her scaling. And really the only bad parts about Mulan is just how long her animations are. Like Cross Strike, I honestly think that's a terrible ability. Even though it does insane amount of damage, has a high scaling for a warrior. It just takes so long to go off. Like compared to something like Achilles one, which is like 310, I want to say, base damage plus probably I think 80% scaling. Yeah, it's less, but it's also an instant stun and damage and a lot more range. So it's not as clear cut as just more damage, but you do more damage in the long run. I do believe with Mulan, but in that short term burst, you won't be doing more damage. So you want to get all of your kit off. If you can't get all of your kit off, then it's kind of rough. But trust and believe that she is good enough to play in the jungle. All right, that's everything.